One thing that obviously from my perspective, I think that's very positive about this is that we are now thinking through very foundational issues. Very foundational issues. Everyone has been changed by this. Now, we said the same thing. It's amazing that I'm talking to people that don't remember this. Some people that don't remember this. We said the same thing on the 13th of September, 2001. Yeah, you can go back and listen to the recording because I talked about this. We said everything's changed, and we were right. Everything did change. There were some things that were fundamentally changed in society itself at that point in time. There were things we thought might be changed that, with the fading of memory and the closeness of the event, have gone back to where they were. Will that be the case here? Yeah, so certain things, fundamental changes. Other things, probably be forgotten. Yeah. But in the church, me and my fellow elders, all elders that I know of in every church, all elders that I know of in every church have been having deeper conversations with each other about the fundamental nature of the church and its mission than probably any time in the past. Any time in the past. As a result, I think, I just don't think we can ever go back to where we were. For me, this will be a new, vitally important aspect of what I think about the function of the church, the mission of the church, the relation of the church to the world, the relation of the church to the worship of God, to worship itself. Look, I've got to be very careful what I say here, because I'm speaking into an explosive atmosphere. There's a tremendous amount of volatile fumes, and I do not want to, I don't think it would be appropriate at this time to explode them. I've literally been thinking over the past couple of days, should I put a reminder in my calendar? Should it be 6 months, 8 months, a year, to finally have the full conversation? I don't know, because as I'm thinking about this, I think this is going to be an ongoing conversation. This is going to be something that goes up and down, up and down. So it's going to be part of the new norm. And so at some point you really have to dig into all of it. But right now, I just think there are too many people, even in this audience, who are, well, my fellow Trekkies will appreciate this, emotionally compromised. Emotionally compromised. Fear has so taken over that nothing I say will be either relevant to you or interpreted in any fair fashion at all. At all. So I need to only partially answer this question right now. I said yesterday on the program, and I said in Twitter, Hebrews 10:25 is not talking about this situation. I'm sorry. If you think it is, I just don't know where you're getting that. Let us hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering, for he who promised is faithful. And let us consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds, not forsaking our own assembling together, as is the habit of some, but encouraging one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. So there's your section, there's your sentence. It is meant to be an exhortation in light of difficult circumstances. We can use that. We need to hold fast the confession of our hope without wavering. Why can we do that? Because he who promised is faithful. And so we're not trusting in our own accomplishment. We're trusting in his faithfulness. As a result, we should consider how to stimulate one another to love and good deeds. I am seeing some of that. I would love to see more of that. One of the contests right now in that thing on Twitter is between two dear brothers of mine, dear friends of mine. One I know a whole lot better than the other, but I consider them both dear brothers and fellow laborers, both of whom I have disagreements with. Michael Brown, Dan Wallace. So I wrote something about it today. And what I wrote about it was to build both of them up. To say to the world, man, Dan Wallace has been just such a tremendous servant for us all, and we've learned so much from him. And you know, I've known Dan since the Ankerberg show. That's when we met, 95. Some of you weren't born in 95. I've known him for a while, and it's not like we call each other up and chat all the time. But Dan will tell you, there was a time I was there for him. I won't go into it. I'm not looking for pats in the back, but there was a time I was there for him. We still talk about that once in a while. He's been a tremendous help to me as a resource in textual criticism. And you know that I love Michael Brown. You've seen the debates we've done with each other and against each other. And what I did is I tried to build them both up. And I had voted for one over the other. I had to make a choice. But I wanted to build them both up and tried to. And I hope they saw that. I know Michael did. Dan's not the social media maven. Michael has his radio program, so he's much more out there. The point is, let us consider how to stimulate one another's love and good deeds. We don't do that very well in social media. Might be time to really reconsider that, especially if we're going to be spending a whole lot more time on it, because it's the only way we can communicate with people. But that's the context of not forsaking your own assembling together. So the assumption is the assembling together is taking place, but there are some who are in the habit of not coming to the regular assembly of the church. This isn't talking about how often the church should assemble. This isn't talking about whether the church should assemble because of the ease of transmission of COVID-19 or the plagues that would be coming upon the church within the next centuries, historically speaking. The plague Justinian, and which may have been the plague itself. We're not 100% certain. We just don't know. We didn't have doctors back then that could make the kind of observations we can do today. Anyways, it is saying that there were people who have a habit of separating themselves away from their fellow Christians, and we're not to do that. We are how can you stimulate one another to love and good deeds if you're not in the body? That's the issue. We are to instead encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day drawing near. Now, if you want to try to create an argument from that says this should be the guiding principle as to whether the church must meet on a weekly basis, face to face, even in the midst. Let's not use, because this gets into arguments about just how bad this stuff really is and how many people really die from it and all the rest of that kind of stuff. Right now, you can't even talk about that. Not even allowed to in our society right now. You can't. Let's leave that off to the side. What if you were a part of a faithful church in 1349? And if you don't know that date, you really should. I should just be able to sit here and go, just think of 1347 to 1351. And if you listen to this program, I'm going to make sure you know those dates. Sort of like 325. You do know that one, don't you? Yeah, Council of Nicaea. 1347, 1351. The Great Mortality. We call today the Black Death, the Black Plague. They didn't call it that. Nobody called it that back then. The reason it was called the Black Death is because one form of the plague caused these massive black bulbs to develop under your armpits and your groin. Oof, bad stuff, okay? There was another form that was breathed in, and that killed you in 24 hours. 24 hours, you're dead. Mortality rate, 100%. There were no records, to my knowledge, there were no records of anyone who got that form who ever lived. 100% mortality. The other form was about 85 to 90% mortality. Okay? So we're talking wipes out half the population of Europe in a matter of years. And then goes away and then bops back a couple decades later, and then it just keeps going. It's incredible how long that lasted. So the question is, what about 1349? Would Hebrews 10:25 have said, yep, you all got to get together? Now, they didn't know what caused it. And so they did get together. And one of the main groups that died were all the priests. Interestingly enough, the Pope at the time, and this was during the schism, so you had different popes. The Pope had a doctor. And the Pope, the doctor said what he needed to do was to stay in a room with two huge fires at each end of the room. That would produce a lot of smoke, but somehow they handled that. I'm not sure what. He did survive. And when you think about it, that probably wasn't, I don't think the doctor had any idea why that would work. But a lot of stuff that was tried, there was a lot of stuff that was tried that just killed people instantly. But a couple of things that were tried actually worked for reasons that they had no idea why it was. But if it was passed primarily by fleas, those fires would probably keep the fleas away. What are you doing with that microphone? It's driving me crazy. When you raise it, you're trying to talk about something. So anyway, would you meet in 1349? Would Hebrews 10:25 have that meaning in 1349? Today, we have technology. So all these different factors, what's the state up to? What's the state's authority? What's our requirement to show love to our neighbor? Will our meeting bring death? And again, remember yesterday, one of the reasons I showed the mortality thing? We've already made the decision that our meeting is worth the risk of a certain level of death. You've already made that decision. Every one of you who's ever gone to church has already made that decision. What do I mean? You get into a vehicle. You could kill somebody, an unbeliever, on the way to church. You've decided that that risk is low enough. It's still a risk, but it's low enough. Where is the risk? Why have we been given so much contradictory information? What information can we trust? This is why I said I'm so disappointed that the people on the one side that say we must get together, we must meet, this is it's not just something that we can put off. This is talking about a couple days ago. There were some people over here, not all, but there were some, launching nuclear missiles at the people who didn't meet. You're just a bunch of compromisers. You're bowing the knee to Satan, well, Caesar, Satan, whatever, Satan's representative, Caesar, whatever, launching nuclear missiles this way. Right now, the vast majority of the nuclear missiles are coming from this side. If you dare meet, you are an idiot. You are risking your own people because, people are dying in the streets all around us. Well, they're not, but it's going to happen. And so you've got the two sides doing this stuff. What needs to be done is that the elders of each congregation have to assess the information as best they can as a group in light of their commitment to how important public worship and the ordinances is, and how regular that must be. Now, you have standard New Testament revelation of meeting on the Lord's Day. Okay, that's your standard. That's the norm. If meeting in 1349, or let's say meeting in certain war situations where because of bombardment, you are greatly increasing the chances of your people's death by all getting in one place. Can you put off that meeting in light of bombardment? Most people, I think, would say yes. So it's all a matter of weighing the information.